Armies are speechless. Taehyung's rare moment with the golden trumpet shakes the world. Army. All around the world. Welcome back to BTS fans. A quiet place in the middle of a noisy world, where every story about Kim Taehyung is not only told, but truly felt. But today, don't relax. Just 3 seconds. Don't scroll. Because what happened in February 2026 was not just viral content. Not just another beautiful photo. Not just another trending topic that disappears after a few hours. It was a moment. A moment that made millions of people stop. At the exact same time. Without warning. Without massive promotion. Without a grand stage. Without fireworks. Without noise. Just one image. One silent room. One man holding a golden trumpet in his hand. And suddenly, the world felt quiet. There were no LED lights. No roaring stadium. No screaming crowd calling his name. Only a cold gray floor. A black suit falling perfectly along his frame. His head slightly bowed. And his lips touching the mouthpiece. With the careful tenderness of an artist who understands that the first note is never just sound, but a prayer for army all around the world. That man is Kim Taehyung. And that photo was never just a portrait. It felt like a statement. A silent declaration that struck harder than any loud performance. Within hours, the image spread across social media. Crossing languages. Crossing cultures. Crossing continents. Some people were speechless. Some felt an ache they couldn't explain. Some were even upset. Not because they disliked it, but because they were moved too deeply by something they never expected from a global superstar. Because in a world where celebrities compete to be louder, bigger, brighter, Taehyung chose silence. Very quickly, the comparisons began. The slightly bent posture. The intimate connection with the trumpet. The fragile, melancholic aura. One name echoed everywhere. Chet Baker. The American jazz legend. Born in 1929. Remembered forever. For the haunting tenderness of My Funny Valentine. Chet Baker was never just a musician. He was a symbol of beautiful fragility. Of romance touched by sadness. Of honesty. In a world full of performance. And in one black and white frame. Time felt folded. As if the 1950s and 2026 were breathing inside the same silence. But here is the truth. Many people slowly realized Taehyung was not imitating. He was revealing. Because long before this photo, long before the headlines, long before the theories, he had already loved the trumpet, the analog warmth of old music, the quiet emotion of classic jazz. This was not a concept, not a costume, not a temporary aesthetic. This was his root. And that is why February 2026 felt different. Because the world suddenly saw something deeper than an idol. They saw an artist standing face to face with history. Think about it. Taehyung is part of BTS. A name connected to sold-out stadiums, record-breaking charts, global awards, and a scale So massive. It almost feels unreal. So when someone, from the center of that brightness, chooses to sit alone in a silent industrial room, the message becomes louder than any concert. Media called it quiet luxury. Cultural critics described it as a shift from pop icon to timeless artist. But ARMY felt something even deeper. They felt sincerity. Because psychologically, this image touched a hidden longing, shared by millions. A longing for slowness in a world that runs too fast. A longing for honesty in an era of algorithms. A longing for real emotion in a time full of noise. And for a brief moment, the entire world breathed at the same speed as Taehyung. And maybe that is the true power of February 2026. Not numbers, not records, not statistics, but meaning. Because when GQ released data, the world saw achievement. But when Taehyung lifted that golden trumpet, the world felt soul. He was not chasing attention, not creating controversy, not promoting a project. He was simply returning to music in its most honest form. And in a noisy era, choosing silence is the most radical voice of all. So now, the question is not about a photo anymore. It is about the future. Is this the beginning of a new musical chapter? A deeper journey into jazz, into intimacy, into timeless sound? Or is it a quiet reminder that true power does not need to shout? ARMY, Taehyung lovers, BTS fans, all around the world, what do you feel when you see that image? Write your thoughts in the comments below, because this story is far from over. Thank you for staying until the end with BTS fans, where every silence has meaning and every story has a heartbeat. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another moment of Kim Taehyung's journey. And remember, if February 2026 was this powerful in silence, then the story that comes next might be even more unforgettable. See you in the next story.